were good to go.
Okay. We'll call the meeting to order. Lexi, would you take roll call, please?
Commissioner Corbin?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson? Commissioner Thill?
Here.
Commissioner Waldner? Mayor Denner?
Here. Would you have the agenda in front of you?
Make a motion, we adopt the agenda for tonight.
Second.
We got a motion to adopt the agenda, a second. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We'll move down into appearance and acknowledgements. Under number 1, acknowledge 2018 Operation and Maintenance Award, Wastewater Treatment Facility. Brad, would you like to?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Again, the DENR, South Dakota Department of Environment and Natural Resources, conducts operations audits, if you will. They come and they do physical inspections, and they go through the paperwork and verify that everything's correct. And those systems that meet the criteria for having done an outstanding job get the operations and maintenance awards. So that's what we're getting for the wastewater system. We had one just last meeting for the water system. So.
Mr. Gordon, do you have anything?
Oh, this is just another testament of the outstanding work of those specialists that work in that wastewater plant and out in distribution and collection. Big thank you to those guys. They're the ones that earned it for us.
Okay. Do I have a motion and a second?
I'll make a motion to acknowledge the 2018 Operations and Maintenance Award, Wastewater Treatment Facility.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Anybody want anything removed from the consent calendar?
Motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. No unfinished business. We'll move down into new business. Authorize the mayor to sign local government certificate emergency solution grant program, domestic violence network. We do have Christine in the audience.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Christina Vandy Wettering. I'm the Executive Director of the Domestic Violence Network here in Madison, South Dakota. And it's that time of year again, and we're writing grants for, it's through South Dakota Housing. It's the Emergency Solutions Grant. It covers about a 13 to 15 month time span. This grant, if it's granted toward us, the money that's granted toward us, it'll start about May of 2020. It runs for about 13 to 15 months depending on how quickly we can spend the funds. We're asking for about 10% of our budget. It's not a lot of money, but it really helps because it provides part of our rental costs and our utilities, and we also get some funds to help survivors of domestic violence pay for their rent deposits, utility deposits, and some short-term rent. So it's an important grant for us, and we look forward to getting that signature from you tonight. If anyone have any questions, I'd love to answer them.
Just kind of an annual thing. I
Yeah.
don't think we've
Yeah.
ever had
It's an
any
annual.
issues with it
We've
before.
applied for this grant, I believe, I've applied for it 6, 7 times, and I think they applied for it 3 prior to my being on staff. So it's about 10 years that we've received funds from this source.
Always successful.
Always successful.
Wonderful. Well, we can certainly do our part. I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign local government certification emergency solutions grant program, domestic violence network.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Under number 2, authorize the mayor to sign local government certification emergency solution grant program for the Interlakes Community Action Partnership. Eric?
Good afternoon. I'm Eric Kunzweiler with Interlakes Community Action. I'm their planning director. For the sake of time, the same thing Christie's here for, only we're here to help families that are either at risk of becoming homeless or are homeless. We can use the funds for case management, utility assistance, excuse me, case management, security deposit, not utility assistance, and rental assistance. Our grant is for $80,000, and it's for our 14 county service area. We serve, Lincoln, Turner, all the way up towards Grant and Connington. Other than that, it's the same purpose. Any questions?
Same thing, it's an annual.
Annual grant application, we are successful every year as well.
Every year. Okay.
You want a motion?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we authorize the mayor to sign local government certificate emergency solution grant program for Interlakes Community Action Partnership.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Harry. Under 3, authorize the mayor to sign change order number 2, Design Art Group LLC / Amert Construction Municipal Utility Building Renovation. Mr. Lawrence.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. This document is a final document to close out the Amert construction portion of the project and do all the accounting for the changes that were made along the way. Several changes, some were deducts, some were additions, and primarily a couple of them were to improve the quality of the project, a couple of them were to meet the standards, and we can go through them if you have any questions on any of them. I can certainly talk about any individual change that we made along the way, but some of them were just to meet the standards that are required, and some of them were to make the project a little bit better. Some were from Amert themselves on making recommendations on how to make things better as we went along. So,
Overall, the project came in substantially under budget, as I recall. I don't have the numbers right in front
yes,
of me, but
we had budgeted $320,000, and we'll be at on this portion, $261,610. There are some costs that are outside of this construction project that are part of the real estate, if you will, improvements, and those will be billed against this same 320, and I anticipate we'll be somewhere in that 285 range by the time we're all said and done, out of the 320 budget.
Was that 320 or 350?
320, I believe.
Okay. Either way, we're underneath.
Yes.
Okay. So we're completed with the renovation, new.
There's some little punch list things that we have to work with right now with Amert. Nothing that's really major. They're just little tiny things. And then we, as any new building or any new facility, there's little quirks we got to work on. Things that you get just simple little things. Trying to get the boiler system and the furnace to work together exactly right, so we don't end up with overshoot in the middle of the afternoon and get real warm in the afternoon. So we're working on some stuff like that. Haven't been in it long enough to really do much of that stuff, so we're working on those things. But other than that, the major things are all done. There's just some minor little things that need to be touched up yet.
Are we going to have like an open house to the public to it?
At some point in time, we have to determine when. That's what we've been thinking about.
My experience in the new buildings is I've been involved in 2 major projects in my life of building renovations or both. And when you get everything, the courts work out and you get the staff settled down, big one, then you'll get it and bring it to the public. And until then, everybody's a little.
We're still moving right now.
Right.
When I worked at a treatment center with a new building, and we wondered who was supposed to go home and who was supposed to stay at the treatment center sometimes. It's just frustrating for people, changes, there used to be a plug-in right by my desk, and now there's not. All those kind of things just have to be meted out. So I would strongly suggest you wait until you have some sense that things are kind of not perfection, but pretty darn close.
we should have a supervisor meeting out there too. We haven't had one of those in a while. Now that we have a new mayor, we should kick around the idea of resuming them maybe. Or at least have one. And out
Maybe
at the new building. it'd be
Semi-annually
appropriate.
or something,
Yeah.
quarterly.
Yeah, even a quarterly one would be great.
These these changes that we're approving as they came up, Brad discussed them with me and our previous mayor, so like, this doesn't come as a surprise, but this is more of a clerical step, I guess.
And we didn't want to bring it to the commission for every $500 change and run it through the ringer. Some of them were deductions, like I said, so, if we split these all out, there'd have been some individual things that, would have been quite voluminous for the commission to take up. So with consultation with Commissioner Corbin and Mayor Lindsay, it was felt that we could summarize these in one document at the end and not hamper the commission with 20 different proceedings.
So what's the difference? Why do we need steel doors instead of wood? I just think that these change orders got way out of hand on this for a building that we was supposed to be able to accept, and it's just what we wanted to move into. And now here we are, we're spending $35,000, $40,000, $50,000 more for change orders, and I just don't think that big picture looks very good.
Well, Commissioner Phil, you got to remember, when we purchased the building, we purchased it just for the electric. And shortly after we purchased it, or maybe moved forward with that purchase, we reorganized the city and changed the formation of the city and created a unified municipal utility. And in that process, it was determined that we should have everybody that's involved in that under one roof. And that also included Gary Gagno from the Public Workshop because of his close association with Roxy Ebdrup that's doing the administrative role in the Public Works. And so that's why we ended up with what we did. We didn't start out initially needing that space to be renovated that much. Now, because it's a public facility and because we were open to the public, we had to have ADA bathrooms, and none of the bathrooms that were in there were ADA, so we were going to have to do something with bathrooms to start with.
And I understand.
And we understood that, and that's what we'd anticipated, and we talked about making some minor changes, but when we decided to reorganize and put more people underneath my leadership and create a new position, the utility director, then we had to renovate the building to include those people. And so we made a lot of changes. Even after we started, we made changes and eliminated some things, and it was quite a process. We've been after this for about 7 months of design, changing different layouts and everything, trying to get it as small as we can and still be functional and have some room to grow in the future so we don't paint ourselves into the corner.
So then there's no more change orders coming.
Not from the Amert. This will be the total for Amert. There'll be more bills coming in, that aren't part of the Amert's construction because we had some things that were, there's two different types of work that you do. Some of it is stuff that goes with the real estate. So anything that's part of the building that gets attached to the building and becomes part of the building, that'll go into this. There are some things that were like office equipment and that are in a separate budget. And so we had a separate budget for that to do that. We still have some things that are going to be attached to the building that are going to be billed against this. One of them was the movement of the crane. We had a crane that was in the wrong bay, and we had to move that out, so we hired some help to do that, something that we weren't capable of doing. And we hired a house mover that was accustomed to moving these big beams around, and they moved them for us and got them set up. And we moved the crane to the shop side. And then the security system is something that becomes an integral part of the building. There was a big chunk of it that was there. We had to tie that in and then also add some stuff to it to finish up the security system for the building. And so that will be built against the building itself because it becomes part of the building when you're done. It just becomes, it's because it's bolted to it.
Do you foresee any more change orders coming down through the chain of command for this building? Chad?
I don't know.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign change order number 2, Design Art Group, Amert Construction, Municipal Utility Building Renovation.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All nay, all for nay, same. All opposed, same sign. Sorry. Thank you.
I'm helping you, but.
Nope, that's good. we'll move on to number 4, adopt resolution number 2019-10, approve a plat, Lot 1, Block 1, Gil Bronson, second edition. Chad, would you want to?
Yes, sir, thank you, I can talk about that. If I may just first go over what's in the agenda packet. If I may just talk about the next 3 items altogether because they're really all 3 the same act. Not all need to be part of the same action, they're separate resolutions, but they're the same thing, each approving a plat. So included in the agenda packet is a resolution which describes the commission action of approval of the plat. There is for Lot 1, Block 1 of Gil Branson's. There is the plat document itself, the map portion, if you will, and then the certificates on the following pages. Just to take a minute to note that there's no signatures on this. This was still an earlier version that we had. Nothing has changed. We now do have a signed version in the finance office. We just had to get a hold of some of these folks to get them signed, and so nothing has changed from what you see in the agenda packet. And then going on to the next agenda items, there's the next plat for Lot 1, Block 2, and the same information included for that. And then the last one is Lot 6, Block 2 of Gil Branson's second edition for that. And the last page related to all 3 of these items are the minutes, the draft minutes, because they haven't had another meeting to approve those, but it's from the May 14th Planning Commission where they considered these plats and recommended approval of those. Part of the reason being is these plats are all in accordance with the master plan, technically called the preliminary plat for this area, and all the lots and dimensions proposed in the preliminary plat have been carried through to these final plats. This is the last step of the process. The owner can take possession of these after we get their remaining signatures, and then take them, file them at the courthouse, and then they can be used in legal descriptions and sold and so on. So I would stand by for questions.
When you say, Mr. Mayor, if I may, when you say preliminary, is that, you mean there might be some changes into them?
No, just within the land development process that we have, as a developer looks to develop land, there's a process where they come up with a sort of a sketch plan of a lot and block layout and drainage and so on, back of the napkin type thing, less cost typically in preparing that. Then that review is accomplished by the engineer's office, shared with some of the other departments, but then also the planning commission reviews that and gives their okay on that portion. Then at that point the developer can proceed with a more detailed plan, which involves a lot and block layout, typically involves CAD drafting and such, and engineers and surveyors, and then they would lay out the water and the sewer and the lot layouts and so on. That's the preliminary plat. That's been approved already previously for this subdivision. And then the final step in the process, excluding the construction of any infrastructure, but the final step in the approval process of the planning commission, so to speak, is this final plat process, and that's when it creates separate lots, legal descriptions, and so on, and then that is the owner can use to, among other things, to market to his clients, people want to buy lots.
And so, from here, in the action we take tonight, it goes now to the ability to do that.
That's
Before
correct.
it's marking it out.
Yep.
And I'm not opposed to this at all, just for
Yeah,
clarification
yep.
purposes.
Refresher on the process. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So I would recommend approval of not only Resolution 2019-10, which is the plat for Lot 1, Block 1, but approval of all 3 of these.
One more thing, Mayor, does anybody?
Just here if there's any questions.
Okay.
The only other comment I'm going to follow up there with Chad
Can you
was
come
that.
up to the table, Dan? I know what's the house.
I know I don't have to get closer to be called noisy or anything. The only other thing that I'm going to follow up with that is when the final plot is approved, that's when the city, any entity, that's your taxing changes. That your taxes will be then as a plotted, finished lot that could be built on, instead of, I don't know if it's still zoned ag land or whatever it's zoned as, it just goes then to that process.
I think it's just further, thank you.
And what Mr. Gulbranson is referring to too, you can see some of the other, when he says approved, there, you know, there's city steps here where my office signs off on it, the planning commission signs off on it, the city commission signs off on it, the finance officer signs off on it. Then it goes to the county, where the treasurer and the director of equalization, the register of deeds all sign off on it. And that is where, oftentimes they would reassess it and change the taxing, as Mr. Gulbranson had indicated. Our process per se doesn't trigger it, because county, until Mr. Gulbranson takes them in his hand and takes them over there and records them, they don't make any changes.
Just can't write the tax up on it as you see fit.
That's right, yes.
Thank you.
Is
Thank you.
it too much for me to assume you have some people that are interested in building homes, or?
Yes, we do. In fact, one of these lots, as soon as we get it final plotted, we'll be entering into a purchase agreement this coming weekend. Individual coming in for Dakota State, and they'll be building a new house out there, so
Wonderful.
Excellent.
hopefully that generates a few more.
Prime the pump a little.
There you go. Activity breeds activity.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I make a motion to adopt resolution number 219-10, approve plat, lot 1, block 2, Gilbranson, second edition. We have to do all these individually?
Yes.
By statute, okay. That was the first.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. We will take a roll call vote on this, being it's a resolution.
Commissioner Corbin?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Thill?
Yes.
Commissioner Waldner? Mayor Denner?
Yes. We'll move on to 5, adopt resolution number 2019-11, approve plat, lot 1, block 2, Gil Bronson, second edition.
So moved.
Second?
I got a motion and a second. We'll take a roll call vote.
Commissioner Corbin?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Thill?
Yes.
Commissioner Waldner? Mayor Denner?
Aye. Number 6, adopt resolution number 2019-12, approve plat, lot 6, block 2, Gil Bronson, second edition.
So approved.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Taking a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Corbin?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Thill?
Yes.
Commissioner Waldner? Mayor Denner?
Aye. We'll go down in public comments. Do we have any? We have George Lee in the audience on Center Street. Would you come up to the mic, please?
George Lee, I'm just curious, what's going on in Center Street? We're cutting out blacktop and cutting out curb and gutter and cutting out sidewalk.
Yeah, that's a good question. We had some, as part of every project, like Mr. Lawrence had talked about earlier, there's a punch list. We go through and inspect everything before we accept the work. And so part of that process is inspecting the various components. One of those would be related to the asphalt work, some manholes and valves. Mainly manholes were a little lower than they were out of specification. So there was a little bit of a bump there when we went over those. Those were included on our list. The contractor has come in and made adjustments to the ones that were in compliance. And you're referring to today, they're out there saw cutting concrete. What looks like, it is new concrete, but there's various cracks and issues with the concrete that we're having the contractor repair before we accept the project. And then seeding is our most important goal at this point. We want to get that done by June 1st. And the concrete work has to precede that so that they can put the topsoil up against finished surfaces and so on. So our goal is still to get everything, at least the seeding done and everything else primarily by that June 1st extension date that we granted last year. So that's where we're at. The weather's been a little bit uncooperative for them. And,
I understand that.
yep, so that's where we're at.
Okay, thank
Appreciate
you.
you bringing that up.
Thank you.
Saw what's going on today, and I wanted to know how to talk about it, so.
You bringing all the valves and manholes up to grade?
Bringing up the ones that are not in compliance, yes, and they've done those already, yes.
Okay.
It's I think we've talked about this before. Everything has to have a tolerance, and so we've inspected them and had a fair amount of discussion back and forth with our contractor about those, and they have come in and fixed those that are out of tolerance. There's some you'd like everything to be flush, but there are still some that are lower than flush. But the tolerance, we don't set that at 0, because settlement could happen over time, and we coordinate with the Gary Gagno and such as well. That the worst thing would be to have something a little higher, as you know from your years, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You don't want to hit those with the blades and such. So we've been working hard at that, trying to get things within specification.
How about when you're planting the grass back on? If they don't get good weather, you're gonna extend that for a week or two?
You mean the initial plant?
Yeah.
To get it dried out? Well, that's a fine line. I mean, we want to get it in early enough in the spring where we can still take advantage of what we hope will be additional spring rains. However, within the contractor does have responsibility for watering and such like that. So how I would anticipate it will go is we really want to hit this June 1st date, get it done by then. They'll till it all or most of that boulevard area up and seed it. And if there's some dry spells, they'll have to provide water. We pay them for that, so it does come with a cost. But regardless of dry weather or their watering efforts or not, we'll review the seeded area. Typically, one sticks in my head that we look at it again in about 45 days, and if there's more overseeding or reseeding they need to do, they'll have to do that at that time. But we'll want to make sure that's done late enough in the year so that it just doesn't immediately burn up as well. So, yeah.
So Chad, is the contractor themselves doing the seeding, or did they sub that out?
They have a subcontractor.
And it's seeding and not hydro?
It will be. I believe it's a typical drop seeder, and they'll place that in. But there's the hydro mulch. It'll be like that sprayed on green mulch is what they'll have, and then of course fertilizer as well.
And you said there would be additional cost to us on watering?
Correct. When you set up a contract, you have to give the contractor an opportunity, and that's how we set it up. Opportunity to allow that grass to grow, and if he needs to add water, then that's what he has to do. And to avoid the contractor from bidding in those unknowns and us paying for it regardless, we set up a bid item. So if he needs water, we have to pay him for it. If we wouldn't, he probably would bid in some reseeding and such like that. So that's just the method that we've opted to use in this project.
But on these punch lists, that is no extra cost to us, that they coming back and doing the curb work.
Correct. There's some areas that there was some maintenance activity that was in error, if you will, not the fault of the contractor. And so there's 2 smaller areas that we will participate in those costs, but everything else is not at our cost.
Thank you.
Conversely, I have to ask this question because we've had so much rain, if they seed it and washes out, it's almost the opposite of getting too hot, seeding too late and gets too hot,
Yeah.
We have some liability there also.
They do.
Because it seems to be, I've talked to several people who had that happen, they seeded a bowl or an area and washed out the next night,
It's a little bit of a challenge because how long is it reasonable to hold the contractor on the hook, so to speak? some point you gotta draw the line. And so we try to find that balance when we try to set up the specifications and try to make it very clearly understood what the contractor's obligations are, and, you know, and if we do that, they bid in some risk and we can share the risks. That's oftentimes the best way to assure the best pricing.
I have several people in Washington, when are they gonna get this done? We brought it up a couple of times, that do the best we can at the best time possible.
Yeah.
And the hydro mulch does,
That should help.
that helps a lot.
I think that's why they do the hydro seed.
It
Some-
helps.
Some do the hydro with the seed in it, like
Yeah.
my yard, they line seeded it and put the hydro
Yeah.
on it to keep the seed from blowing away. You're absolutely right.
There'll still, I can guarantee there'll still be some washouts.
Oh,
As
yeah.
you know from that area, if you've been out there, there's some steeper boulevards, so there's no doubt. And roof drains, I mean, people have, the water drains away from their house. It comes out in a concentrated area sometimes, and it's gonna have little washouts. Have to do some maintenance. And anytime we're reestablishing yards, it can be a challenge.
We'll see how it goes in Washington. It'll go okay. Just something to work out. It's interesting to know. I like the public to know that they're aware of, this is a good forum to make announcements, and just like George bringing that up, you know, like I said, let people know we are attentive to it, we are looking at it. Some people might say, you've barely got the thing built and you're tearing it up. And I understand that, you know, I've been through that in other situations, but better to tear it up and get it right than, you know, let it go. And 3 years from now, I wish we had done something more, so I appreciate that.
None of our contractors are having a very good year.
Okay, we'll move into announcements. We're changing next Monday's meeting, being it's Memorial Day, to Tuesday, May 28th.
It's good for me. My wife's birthday's the 27th. I should not. I should be available then. You know, festive celebration.
Are there any other announcements?
I'd move for adjournment.
Okay,
Second.
we got a motion to, and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Thank you.
Signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you.